Okay, let's make sure that you've got this vocab and terminology down pat. So you know an equilateral looks like this. All sides equal in length. A isosceles triangle looks like this. Two of the sides equal in length. And you put something to denote a different side length. And then a scalene triangle has all different side lengths. A right angle triangle is a triangle where one of the angles is 90 degrees. An isosceles right triangle is a right triangle that has two sides equal in length. The hypotenuse is this side, which is the side of the triangle opposite the right angle. And the altitude of a triangle is from the top vertex straight down vertical at 90 degrees to the base. That is the altitude. Okay? Let's see next page. A median. So what's a median? A median is a line that goes from one vertex. It doesn't have to be the top. There's three medians in a triangle, but I'll just draw one of them. It goes from one vertex to the opposite side. So it's not necessarily 90 degrees, but what it does do is it connects to the midpoint of this side. So this side has a midpoint, and when you connect that midpoint to the opposite vertex, you have what's called a median. The centroid of a triangle is where all three medians connect. So let me draw it out for you. Here's one median to the midpoint. Here's another median to their midpoint. And then here's the third median to the midpoint of this side. And that point there is called the centroid. The circumcenter is, hang on a second, it would be read much better if we did, okay, well let's do it this way. First, let's talk about a perpendicular bisector, even though this says circumcenter. A perpendicular bisector, which is sometimes called a right bisector, is this. It goes through the midpoint at 90 degrees. Sometimes it ends up going through the opposite vertex. Oftentimes it doesn't. But a line that cuts the side of a triangle in half and does so at 90 degrees is called a perpendicular or right bisector. And where all three right bisectors meet, because each side has a midpoint and can have a line drawn at 90 degrees, where those three perpendicular bisectors meet is called the circumcenter. Then we have, on the last page we did altitudes. So we know the altitude of a triangle is from the vertex straight over to the other side perpendicular. And of course there can be three of, there are three of them. And when you draw all three from one vertex directly perpendicular to the opposite side, where those three meet, that's called the orthocenter. Then, the diameter of a circle, of course, we know, goes from one point on the circumference through the center to the other point of the circumference. Then we have a chord. Well, a chord and a diameter are pretty much the same. They have their endpoints on the circumference. The only difference is that the diameter is a chord that also goes through the center of the circle. So here you have a circle, you have a segment, line segment, where the endpoints are on the circumference. It's called a chord. You know what a circle is. A radius, you know what that is. It's half from the center to any part on the any part of the circumference, or it's also double the diameter. The diameter We just did that, but anyhow, the diameter is a chord. Starts on the circumference, ends on the circumference, and goes through the center. The circumference is the distance around the circle. The perimeter is the same as the circumference, except with circles, we don't say circumference, we don't say perimeter, we say circumference. But the perimeter is the distance around any polygon, any shape except a circle. We again call it a circumference. A polygon is a shape with many. Poly always means many sides. So it could be that, could be this. These are polygons. A diagonal, as you know, is when you have a shape to go from there to there. When you have a different shape, that's a diagonal, that's a diagonal. From one vertex to the other is a diagonal. A quadrilateral is a quad always means sided shape or sided polygon. Then we have a rectangle. So rectangle, as we know, has opposite sides equal in length. Opposite sides are parallel to each other, and each vertex has 90 degrees, or the sides are perpendicular to each other. Adjacent sides. So adjacent, it's spelled like this. Adjacent means beside. These two are adjacent to each other. These two are opposite each other. Okay, next is a square. A square is a rectangle that has a special feature, which is all sides are equal in length. Opposite sides are parallel. All corners or vertices are also 90 degrees. A kite. A kite is like this, where these two are equal in length and these two are equal in length. These angles are also equal to each other. A parallelogram. A parallelogram means opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are equal in length, same thing here, and these angles, the opposites angles are equal, and the diagonals, as we saw in a previous question, the diagonals bisect each other. They cut each other into two equal pieces. A rhombus is a square like, except it just doesn't have 90 degrees in its vertices. Opposite sides are equal in length, opposite sides are parallel, and opposite angles are equal. Okay, trapezoid. Here's a trapezoid. The definition of a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with one pair of parallel sides. That's it. An isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid where these are equal in length and these angles are equal and these angles are equal. A right bisector of a line segment, so that we did earlier when we did the circumcenter. So if we have a line and we cut it in half at 90 degrees, so bisect means to cut in half and right means 90 degrees, this is a right bisector, and sometimes they call it a perpendicular bisector. Perpendicular lines, of course, are two lines that meet at 90 degrees, and parallel lines are lines that are equal distance forever. That's your terminology.